This is lesson 5-8 from the Algebra Readiness textbook. For today's lesson, you'll want to grab a sharpened pencil and begin working on the study guide problems in your notes packet. Continue the video when you're done attempting each of the study guide problems. For the first one, to multiply fractions, you learn to multiply straight across, and you get negative 27 over 121. For the next one, the word product means multiply. In order to multiply, you need to first convert to an improper fraction. And so, 29 fourths times 49 fourths. So 29 times 49 is 1,421 over 16. Now, it goes in there. That's improper, clearly, so we have to switch it back. 88 times. And so then when you take, and you'll have to do a side problem, but you get 13/16. Since this is not the major part of our lesson today, we're not going to show or demonstrate the whole side problem. Now, to find the quotient, in our last example, you need to multiply by the reciprocal. You keep the first fraction the same, then you multiply by 38 over d. I simplify by dividing any numerator and any denominators that have common factors. In this case, d. And then 38 and 11 have no common factors, so I'm left with 38/11. 11 goes into 38 3 times, and I'm left with, let's see, 33. 38 minus 33 is 35. Is 5/11. There we go. So today's lesson. Today's lesson is to solve one-step equations that involve fractions. Getting started. 5a equals 1/7. We have talked about how to solve equations many times before, and the rules are exactly the same. Start with a line through your equal sign. Then I find out where your variable is. In this case, it's on the left. 5 times a. Now you need to use inverse operations to isolate the variable a. So I'm going to divide both sides by 5. Now, I need to take, on the right, do you see I have a fraction? So I need to divide that side by 5. So a equals, now you learned about dividing by 5 or dividing by fractions. You keep the first fraction, you change division to multiplication, and then I take the reciprocal of 5. In this case, it's 5 over 1. The reciprocal would be 1/5. So a equals 1/35. Okay, let's show you another one. In case that blew you out of the water. Here we go. We're going to start by drawing a line down the equal sign. I see that x is being multiplied by 8, so I divide both sides by 8. When I divide by 8, 8 as a fraction is the same as 8 over 1. I need to use the rules for dividing fractions that we talked about yesterday. To divide fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. So I change division to multiplication, and I flip 8 over 1 to 1 over 8. Then I simplify if I can, and then I multiply across, and I get 5/56. Now, in this case, my variable is being multiplied by a fraction. So I have 4/5 m equals 9/10. So really what I want to do is divide by 4/5. Now think about that. I want to take 4/5 and I want to divide it by 4/5. because 4/5 and m are being multiplied together, so division is the inverse. But wait, how does that work? So I take 4/5 times the reciprocal. Oh, and what do I get? 20/20ths, or 1m. Some people just think this in their head, in their little think bubble. But what they actually write down on their paper looks more like this. I see that I need to divide by a fraction, but I know that's the same as multiplying, so in come the parentheses to indicate multiplication. And I multiply by the reciprocal. And then look what happens. And I'm left with just m. If you want to write everything that I have over here in the think bubble, you're welcome to do that. If you'd rather just write this as a shortcut, go ahead and do that. Make sure that when you write times 5/4 on this side, that you write times 5/4 on the other side. Now I see that 5 and 10 have a common factor of 5. Now I'm ready to multiply across, and I get 9/8. 9/8 is the same as 1 and 1/8. Now I know many of you are going to want to see that one more time. Let's do the next one together. 2/9 times t equals 5/6. I see that t is being multiplied by 2/9, so I need to divide by 2/9. The rules for dividing fractions are to multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is 9/2. Then I simplify. These cross out, and I'm left with t on the left side. On the right, I see that I can simplify 6 and 9 having common factors of 3. Now I take 5 times 3, which is 15, and 2 times 2, which is 4. 4 goes into 15 3 times, because that's 12, and I'm left with 3/4. All right, it's your turn to try. Pause the video, try B and C, then come back to compare your answers to mine. Let's see how you did. Hopefully you began by multiplying this side by 4/3 and the other side by 4/3. I see that my 4's cancel out when I simplify diagonally, and so do the 3's. S remains on the left. On the right, there are no common factors to simplify, so I multiply across. 32/27. 27 goes into 32 5 times, so one time with 5 units remaining. So you end up with 1 and 5/27. The last one. I see that my variable, while on the right, is being multiplied by 5/4. I need to divide by 5/4, which is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal of 4/5. So I'm going to show that on both sides. Notice sometimes I use parentheses and other times I use a dot to indicate multiplication. Make sure you're good with using either. Now this crosses out, doesn't it? 5 and 5, 4 and 4, and I'm left with 1. The value of D is 1. All right, so what about if I have a negative number? Some of you, when you look at this, you think, oh, I need to add 14/25. Hold your horses. Because do you see that negative 14/25 is being multiplied by my variable k? Since that's being multiplied, I need to do the inverse of multiplication, which would be to divide. I'm going to rewrite this so that it's a little clearer when I show you this. So in order to divide, by a fraction, I multiply by its reciprocal. Now, just because it's negative, that just means that you're multiplying by a negative fraction. So negative 25 over 14. I just flip this whole fraction and keep it negative. Now these cancel out. Then I go to the other side and I also multiply by 25 fourteenths, but negative 25 fourteenths. So K remains on the left, and then I'm going to reduce this. 8 and 14 are both divisible by 2. 15 and 25 are both divisible by 5. Notice I'm being very careful to keep that negative sign. Now, there are no other common factors, so I will multiply across. 4 times negative 5 is negative 20. Notice the negative can be with the 20 or out in front. We've talked about that in previous math classes. 3 times 7 is 21. So my answer is negative 20 21st. Now pause the video and try the next one, which is a negative fraction coefficient for that r also. See if you can do it on your own. To solve this problem, you should multiply both sides by negative 7/6. 3 and 6 have a common factor of 3. And 4 and 7 have no common factors. So what I'm left with is 1 times negative 7, which is negative 7. 4 times 2, which is 8. So r is negative 7/8. Now, make sure you put a star by this one. There's one very similar to this on your quiz. Your teacher needs a shelf to hold a set of textbooks. Now think about this. If this is a shelf, and then your teacher wants to put textbooks in here. Now the textbooks, unlike mine, are all the exact same textbooks. And so they're 1 5/8 inch wide. Now, if this shelf was exactly 26 inches wide, how many of these textbooks that are 1 5/8 inches wide would fit all the way along the entire shelf? So really, I want to know how many groups of 1 5/8 are in 26 inches. So 1 5/8 inch is one textbook times the number of textbooks equals 26 inches. The first thing I need to do is convert this to improper. 8 times 1 is 8. 8 plus 5 is 13/8. Then t is being multiplied by 13/8. I need to divide, which is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Now, what do I do when 26 is a whole number? Remember, just put it over 1. Now, 13 and 26 are both divisible by 13. 2 times 8 is 16. How many books? 16 books. There you have it. All right, try these last two. The last two are important because do you see that they are mixed numbers? Pause the video and work these two problems by converting all mixed numbers to improper and then solving. All right, the first one, 7 halves times n. So I multiply by 2/7 to both sides. Keep in mind that 28 is the same as 28 over 1. Then I like to reduce before I multiply. They're both divisible by 7. n equals 8 over 1. Make sure that you don't leave it 8 over 1 we call it 8. The next problem, a negative 11 fourths h equals negative 25 halves. I draw my line down the equal sign. Then I multiply both sides by negative 4 elevenths. Notice I just flipped it and I kept the negative. Multiply the other side by negative 4 elevenths. Let's see. 2 and 4 have a common factor of 2. 25 and 11 have no common factors except 1. A negative 25 times a negative 2 is a positive 50. 1 times 11 is positive 11. But we don't leave it improper. It goes in there 4 times. So h equals 4. 4 times 11 is 44. And 6 elevenths are left. All right, give this a try on your homework. Page 264, 18 through 26.